Is physical training and that sort of realm being a big part of what made you who you are, like the surfer you are today?
I think it's made me I think it's had a lot to do with the surfer I am today and how I'm perceived, I guess, as the power surfer. But I plateaued on it, let's say. I plateaued with the physical side of things. I've always loved getting in the gym and pushing my body, but when I plateaued on it, I was a little bit lost, and I didn't realize that the mental side is a way bigger side than the physical, and that the physical it got to a point where it didn't mean anything to me. In the beginning it meant something to me, and then it started to fade and it's lost its allure, and that's because I wasn't in touch with the whole mental side of things, the spiritual side of things, doing things for others or for a career, for a job. It's always so much better when you do it for yourself. So I needed to learn about myself more. So, and then it took me back into the physical after that again.
So it came full circle.
It was full circle. Yeah. The circle wasn't complete in the early days. It was all physical. And, I'm so glad that I was steered into the spiritual and, the mental side of things for sure.
Okay, well, let's back up a little bit maybe. So, because I'm thinking like when you were younger and you sort of surfing was a hobby and a passion, was there a point in your young surfing life where you thought, you know what, this is going to be more than that. I'm going to make something of this?
Well, it meant a lot of different things. It was it was my way of making my way in the world, breaking away from my parents, what every kid eventually ends up doing. It was a dream of mine to be in the ocean. It really was. My whole life was just, how am I going to stay in or on the ocean, And then surfing, I narrowed my focus into surfing just because the experience of being in a tube when I was young, I just couldn't get that feeling anywhere else in the world. So, it was just like a driving force that being in the tube just drove the rest of my life. And yeah, I would say that, in the beginning it was in getting stronger. And, as you're a young male and you enter the 18 to 20 years, you start to feel like Superman and you just want to push it and push it and push it. So yeah, it was, it definitely helped, create who I am today. For sure. But then, there was a time where I came across some tough shit in my life and didn't deal with it that great.
When did you realize you were better than most surfers?
Oh God, Mike, I don't think I ever felt that way.
No?
No, that wasn't.
You must have started competing and then realizing, well, I'm coming second or first, and
yeah, I kind of always felt like, I don't know, when I was even in high school, even locally here, I thought there was like 5 guys that were more talented than me. Like I could see their natural talent, and I was like, God, that's just 5 guys in my little town, that are better than me.
That's enough. That's enough to put most people off.
Yeah, I mean,
what made you go, no, talent's not everything? Like,
because I could see that they'd party and they would go out and just not really like. I was like, well, since I'm not as talented as these guys, and I feel like they could, if they really put their foot down, they could just really take off and be way ahead of me. I was like, I'm just gonna outwork them. Because I know they're lazy, and I know they won't do all the right things, and I was just like, well, I will, and I'll just beat them with hard work. That's kind of how it all started, really.
Do you remember how old you were then when that realization came?
Yep, I was probably in 9th grade.
Oh wow.
Yeah, just entering high school.
And when you say do the work, what do you mean by that? Like, what did you do?
I mean, I would be out there on days where literally it would be raining, 1 foot, howling on shore. There wouldn't be one person out on the whole coast, and I'd be out there. And I was like, you know what? These days are going to pay off. I got to learn how to get better in all conditions. And it doesn't matter how bad it is. I've just got to, like I said, I'm going to outwork them. I'm going to just beat them with hard work. and tenacity. That's about it.
So just hours in the water.
Hours in the water, determination, not, I didn't succumb to peer pressure. I didn't go out to parties that much. I didn't do drugs. I didn't drink. I was just like hyper focused, and they weren't. There was like getting lazy, smoking some weed, not, skateboarding. A couple of them got really bad knee injuries skateboarding on ramps and backyards and stuff. And like, I don't think they realized how good they were. It was weird because I could see it. And I was like, wow, I can't believe they're not taking advantage of this, of their talent.
Yeah. Did that help to motivate you?
Totally. Because I felt like I was a natural in the ocean. And I felt like, before I had my back surgery in 10th grade, I felt like I was a pretty good surfer. And I really like based everything around Tom Kern. He was my hero. He was like who I wanted to be like and surf like, and I would try to copy him. And then back surgery came, started going up against some stiff competition in high school, and I was like, wow, the fear of maybe this isn't going to happen for me. Like, wow, there's a lot of good surfers out there. Like, I need to step my game up in an area and the only way I knew was, just outwork them, outsmart them.
So the back surgery, that was pretty major, yeah?
Yeah, I had a major back surgery in 10th grade, year 10, as you guys would say. I thought I had just a low back pain. I woke up and I told my mom, before school, like, hey, my back's hurting, and let's go so after about a week, went to the chiropractor, and he, adjusted me, and I was like, oh, just thinking it was just going to get better. And it didn't get better. And a couple of days later, I called for my mom before school, and I literally was like paralyzed in bed. I couldn't get out of bed. So and then I was like kind of stressed out. I was like, okay, this is something different. And we went to the doctor, got an x-ray. I had spondylolisthesis, grade 4. So it was like really bad. It's where the vertebrae, my very last one, which is L5, slipped all the way out to where it literally was cutting my sciatic nerve in half. And I kind of had pain going down my left leg pretty bad. I didn't know what that was about either. But so he's like, emergency surgery, we're going to graft. We're going to take cut bone from your hip, and we're going to put it around with 2 screws. It looks like an erector set. So there's 2 screws the size of my fingers that go through a metal bar, and it's all encased in bone.
Okay, so what, they fused?
They fused it.
L5 to S1?
No, they didn't fuse S1, but they fused L3, L4, and L5. And it's been fused ever since. So we're talking like, this surgery was done in 1986.
Yeah.
I mean, the doctor was like, he was even told us, like, this is 50-50 if this even works.
You're a guinea pig.
Yeah, and he was like, and you're never going to surf again. And I was just like, F you, like that was all I cared about in the whole world.
But when the doctor said you're never going to surf again, did it hit you, or did you just rebel?
I couldn't believe it because it was all happening so fast, because I thought I was going to the chiropractor to get popped back into place. No, sweet. And then all of a sudden, here I am in an emergency surgery a couple of weeks later and being told I'm never going to surf again. When like I just, right before that happened, I had the best year I'd ever had amateur surfing. So I was going to the nationals. It was like, wow, because the first couple of years when I was a young surfer were funny because I was horrible. I think the first year I did contests, I made it out of 1 heat the entire year. And my parents were going, are you sure this is for you? And the second year was pretty bad too. I think I made a couple heats. And so by the third year, I was like, I was getting it, and it was coming together. And that's right when I got hit with the back surgery. And, I was like, can't we put this off like a month? I got nationals. Can I? And they were like, no, we got to do this right now. You're going to be paralyzed from the waist down. I just was like, are you kidding me? And it rattled me, and they lied to me about my recovery because they didn't think that I would actually come to the hospital. I was like F this, I'm not doing it. You know what I mean? Like, so they lied to me because they had to get me in there. And I think that's another thing that hit me down the road as far as time goes, you know? It was just and then in my head, the whole time I'm thinking, everyone out there is practicing and getting better than me, and they're going to be that further along than me. So that really, when you say, like, why did you become so focused? And, you know, why did you think that was going to be your advantage? Because I always felt like I was at a disadvantage the whole time and the underdog. So I started, I was living in this back brace from my knee to my chest for 6 months, 24 hours a day. You know, I had to sleep in it. I had to, I would lay on one half and give a sponge bath, and then I'd have to roll over. And it was crazy. I was really tripped out, but it put me at a very early age. It tested my mental boundaries, you know, because I went through a major depression during it, and then came out of it. You know, it was a roller coaster ride that I'll never forget, for sure.
Yeah. Do you think that added to your drive afterwards once you realized?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and it's funny because, you know, we were talking about Tom Carroll earlier, who's, a good friend of mine too, and I love that man. But so when I hit the depression, I contemplated suicide at one point because I was just, if I couldn't surf, literally that's the only thing in life that I cared about, you know. So a friend gave me a book. It was kind of a positive self-help book, and, you know, it's looking back on it, it's kind of funny, but it's, you know, I'm well beyond that now, but it definitely changed my frame of mind, you know, from being like, this is like, I don't need to be on this planet anymore, to I started drinking like a gallon of milk a day because back then it was like no one knew what to do, you know, like what's good for your bones? Well, calcium's good for your bones. And the only place I knew how to get calcium was in milk. So I would drink like a gallon of milk a day. And I did that for 6 months, and I started training, and that's right when Tom Carroll started training himself. Well, at least what we were reading in the magazines, that he was starting to get in the gym and train, and I was like, yeah, that's it. That's how I'm going to be better than everybody, is like, I'm going to go in the gym and kind of be a gym rat. Like, no one in surfing does that. Like, literally no one was doing that. No one was training. So I was kind of like, wow, I'm going to be the only guy in my generation that is actually in the gym. And so I went, and then I got into yoga a little later, and, you know, started learning about how good it felt to be flexible. You know, all that stuff was derived off of the want and love of surfing. And then that back surgery really it was a fork in the road basically in my life. I see it as, could have gone left or it could have gone right. Left probably wouldn't have been a good ending, you know, and then right. So it was a bit of a dramatic, like, in your face decision making time, but I'm lucky for me. I went the right way.
There's a saying that your voids drive your values. So anything that you think you don't have drives you to get it. So you thought you were a really bad surfer, and that's what drove you to become one of the best.
Right.
You know, you had major back surgery, and that drove you even more. And
yeah, it was a crazy time because there was so much going on, you know, like, and surfing was getting so popular. It was growing, and, you know, there were so many people doing it, and it was exciting. And, you know, there was Tom Kern winning world titles, and Aki, and, you know, the whole world. I felt like that was a pretty special time in surfing history, you know. It was like Tom Carroll trains and Tom Kern trains now, and like, wow, they're becoming athletes. It's pretty cool. I was into it, you know, because I grew up watching sports all the time with my dad and stuff, you know, football and baseball and stuff. So I'd be like, kind of like, surfers, they could be so much more, you know, like they were just like cruising at the beach all day, like, and that's cool, you know, that works for some people for sure. But it's also like, I don't think the guys that are doing even the big wave stuff now would be doing that if they didn't start training and doing breath holds. And so it's the whole, what surfers used surfers and jocks used to fight and be against each other. It's just funny now that like we're completely blended, and it's been a really good thing.
The feeling, I got a question for you in regards to surfing and training is when you are on a decent sized wave and you do a proper power turn, how does that feel physically? Can you compare it to anything that you might do in the gym? Like, what sort of physical demands does that require to flow through a turn like that?
As the body is meant to move in a spiral, muscles and joints and stuff, and that's something I just recently learned from Tim Brown, is how like the body moves in like a spiral motion. And I think in the gym, the closest you can get is by doing some kind of activity where there's rotation and, you have a good arch in your feet are flat and they're connected to the ground and with some kind of resistance, and not only into it, but as you're going out of it, And I think what you can do that slowly and you can speed it up a little in the gym, but really in surfing, there's nothing I've felt that can compare to a big, and it's like a formula. I'd say it's like I've flown in an F-18 before with the Blue Angels, and when you're doing a turn in like a jet or like I get probably an F1 car, there's those G's, and you're like at maximum breaking point, and you feel your board and you're feeling the bumps in the wave, and the fins are like right on the edge of breaking out, but they're not. That's when that feeling. No, I don't think there's anything in the world that can give you that feeling, like where you're completely on edge on a moving surface against bump and wind and whatever else is going on out there. But it's almost like you're connected from your head to the tips of your fins. Like you are one piece with that board when you're going through it. It's pretty cool.
Okay, so it's more about connection, but you do feel like the centrifugal G-force.
Right.
Yeah, I guess you can't replicate that at all.
You can't, because there's how do you replicate that?
What about skating a bowl? Does that ever feel similar?
Yeah, in the transitions, yeah, like when you're skating a bowl and stuff, when you get up high, I would say, yeah, you can definitely feel it. That's a comparison for sure.
Yeah.
Because it's a weight transfer balance thing, and it's also a strength thing. But I guess in skating you have something that's moving or giving you resistance. But with surfing, it's weird because it's either the waves moving maybe up against you or away from you. Because waves are so different, right? So you get those wedges that are moving beautifully right coming at you like with full speed, and then there's other times where you're chasing it laterally down the line. So it's very unique sport, man. I think balance stuff is really good too. Maybe on balls and stuff. You can see people when they do push-ups on Bosu balls or stabilization stuff on balls where there's tiny shakes going on. They can barely be on top of the ball on all fours. Then do a contralateral Superman on the top of the ball with all fours, and then you try to stabilize during that stuff. And I think that's pretty relevant to surfing.
Yeah, Matt said to me something which stuck to me, which is Matt Griggs, which is the ultimate form of power is finesse.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Okay, so then how does, like, you described a man turn or a power turn as similar to like pulling G's. Where's the finesse lie?
I think the balance of pressure. Like, think about the things in nanoseconds that need to be going through your head. It's like, that's why surfing to me is the most dynamic sport. I know I'm like biased, but if you really think about it, and there's a lot of sports that are dealing with nanoseconds, like we all are, but like you've got to calculate, like it's all in a feeling, and every single surfboard in the world is different. All fins, fin angles, the way they glass the board, the weight, the flex, everything going. You have to know that during this turn and on this particular wave, and that you only ride one of those in your life because every single wave is different. You've got to know how far to push it, and you get a feeling of the water that in the fins and the board all in one. And you're doing that in nanoseconds, literally adjusting on the fly with whole total body movement. From your toes to your fingers, everything is rotating and moving and stabilizing. I mean, it's pretty nuts. And finesse is controlling all that, and not, if you're a big husky guy and you're light and nimble in small mushy waves, that's incredible. Like, being a big powerful guy and just overpowering turns in small waves, it looks kind of diggy, and it's just, there's the finesse of like, how do you use what you have in each condition? If you're a small, lighter guy, how do you show power in bigger waves? And if you're a big, heavier guy, how do you show lightness, finesse, speed in small, mushy waves? And I think I don't think I still might be wrong about this, but big guys can surf incredible in small waves, I believe. They just need the right equipment. I don't know if we've come up with that yet.
Well, look at Geordie and Dane.
Yeah, I mean, they're pushing the boundaries right now. But before, guys were just accepting what they were. There was no one that was like, okay, I'm a big, strong guy, and I've just been told that we're not good in small waves. It's kind of like it used to seem. And now guys are it's just a rewiring of surfers as a total group. We're all learning finesse as we go along, because you look at either the average Joe now, or you look at a pro surfer now, and you'd go back to the 70s. So we're just completely different. Our whole species has changed. And it's all because of this awareness of the body and the mind. Like, it's pretty cool for me to see it, like I remember back when I was a kid and what it was like, and seeing it now, I'm like, wow, there's so much change, not only in just pro surfing, but in so many ways, even the average guy.
Well, we have so much, the boards are better, the wetsuits are better.
Yeah.
There's more coaching going on. You can buy anyone can buy a video camera nowadays. It's so cheap.
Yeah. It's incredible. It's cool. You see what the guys are doing out there. Like John yesterday in his heat, and today Philippe did the craziest backside air. It's just that kind of stuff before would have just been thought impossible.
Yeah. I like the way you described the feeling of doing a power turn. Like the whole body is connected.
Yeah, you're not separated. There's times where you go out and you're on a board and you're just like, I don't like this board. I'm not feeling it. It's just not the right board for me or whatever. And it's kind of like you're fighting it on the wave. And, when you're fighting a board, it takes away from your awareness of the wave. And then there's times where you're just connected on all levels. Like, doesn't matter if it's a single fin. It's, the board, you love the board, and you know how to surf it. That's why you can go like single fin in one session and thruster in the next. And both can be amazing because you know the feeling of those boards and you're connected to them. When you have that connection to the right board and you're in the right space, it just doesn't feel like there's anything you can't do. Everything slows down, like the game slows down when you have that feeling. And that's when you see those like magic sessions. You can see them on film. You look at Tom Curran at J Bay, that, epic segment he had in the first Search movie or whatever, and he was feeling it. You just see it. It was the first time he'd ever surfed that wave, and he tore it to pieces like no one's ever done. How do you do that when you've never even surfed the wave? There's just a feeling, there's a connection that surfers have, and I think that's why people get addicted to it, because it's mind, body, and soul and spirit that goes, and you're connected with that ocean. It's just energy. You're in energy, and waves are energy, and when you're going and working with energy in that way, I feel like it's blissful.
Yeah. If you were surfing your favorite break on your favorite board with a group of friends, would you surf differently then, or same scenario but you're being filmed for an edit?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. I'm glad you asked me that. I would be surfing the same. I love to push my surfing all the time, even when I'm with my friends, just because it's fun to show them as well, like, hey, man, we grew up together. Remember, we'd play at the beach. We'd be surfing together, like all as kids, and just like, thanks for supporting me. And this is why I keep doing it, and show them like just kind of a thanks of like, hey, man, I'm doing this because you were there in the beginning with me and helping me and encouraging me to do it. And so and you've kind of like, your friends push you, even friends that aren't pro surfers or never were. It's like, it's fun because you connect to that feeling of when you were competing maybe against them in high school, or, just your after school little contests with yourselves. You used to run heats with people, and it brings out that really good, for me, a really good fun feeling, just the fun that we had as kids and what surfing meant to us. Yeah.
I guess the question I have around that is, sometimes I wonder, like if we're watching a surf edit and we see a turn that is beautiful to watch and looks amazing, and then when you watch that same turn yourself, does it relay the same feeling that you get? Like you were describing the feeling of that turn before?
Yeah, because I can remember those turns. I mean, I can remember turns from 20 years ago.
So if you think of the best turn in a session, does think of a turn in a session that feels the best. Okay. It felt the most connected, the most G-force. Is that the one that looks the best on film?
Usually. Yeah, usually. There's times where you're like, God, I went in, I really put some leverage on that turn, but I'm not sure how it's going to look because I kind of got caught in the end or dug a little rail at the end. Sometimes you're kind of like, I'm not sure if that's going to look bad because I overpowered it. But then there's times where you do it right and you just know. You don't even need to look at the film. You just know. Like sometimes when it's that good, it's like, you know what? I don't even want to see it until it's actually you've edited it into the movie, because I already know that's like, I want to stay with that feeling before I see it, because a lot of times for me, when I see it, I start judging it. Like what I could have done better, and that's just something that I've been working on, just to not be so critical.
How do you recreate that feeling over and over again? Where does consistency come from?
I think it's just the love of speed, the speed you can get on waves. Obviously, being in the tube is like the ultimate for a surfer, but just the speed. I love being on a bigger wave in open face, and just because I love going. I want to go as fast as I humanly can and turn as hard as I humanly can. That's kind of like what I like to do in my surfing, and you just don't have the waves that do that a lot. So when it happens, it's really special. It keeps you, maybe if I had it on tap every day, I wouldn't enjoy it as much. I don't mind like the grind of going to the gym and just training on the days that the waves are crappy and blown out and small, because it's always worth it to go on those trips when it does happen. It's like this, it fills up your bank for a while. You go on a good trip and you're like, oh man, I could not surf for the next month because that was just such a good trip and I had so much fun.
Yeah. Okay. So that looking forward to those sessions keeps you in the gym, keeping strong and physically ready for those.
Yeah, it doesn't take much. It's really not much for me, like a couple trips a year, a few good sessions, and that'll keep me in the gym and working hard, because I'm glad it doesn't happen. It's not that easy, just because you have to learn how to work for things, and I've always been that way. My parents are that way, where blue collar, work hard people, and it's not like we need the big castle on the hill or anything. We're stoked when we get it, you know. We're stoked, and there's all those great experiences, like that cliche is, it's not about the destination, it's the journey. The journey's rad. I'm totally into the journey, you know, like injuries. I've had so many of them in my career. I used to get really bummed out. Now it's just like, all right, this is fun. Let's find a way to solve this and share it with other people. You know, it's really cool being around those like-minded people like that, because it's sharing. You know, you're sharing. You want to help. What if Tom Carroll's doing something that helped his knee, then he tells me, or if I'm doing something, I tell him, and yeah, it's cool.
So I watched the Y5 and apply pressure, and I think you've gotten better. How does that work? Because most people think once you hit, mid-30s, that's it. Physically, you maintain it if you're lucky, but I actually think you've improved, like especially in terms of your flow in between turns, and you look more relaxed.
I am. I had a bit of tension to work out, like I was saying, and the more I tried to work it out physically, whether it was like getting massages or like yoga, there was this tension, and it was all due to, having compartments and stuff that like I just never dealt with, or I pushed down, or.
What do you mean by compartments?
Like issues, stuff that had happened in your life that you just moved on from. You didn't really deal with it, you just kind of like distracted yourself with something else, and you stuff it down and move on with life.
Yeah, but how does that affect one's surfing?
Well, because when you have mental tension, you have physical tension, and there was a lot of like uncertainty of, like I knew what I wanted to do at the end of my career, which was be a free surfer and do surf trips, and I was kind of like told that if I did that, then my salary was going to get cut. So I was on tour for another couple years when I didn't really want to be there, and I felt a little bit just tight, like I knew I could surf better than I was surfing. And so started working, just taking some time to be by myself every morning, kind of just clear my mind, do my meditation. And there was an opportunity to go with another sponsor, which I did, which was awesome. And they were totally supportive of me being a free surfer, and which is Reef. And I just felt like this weight had been lifted off my shoulders, like literally physically. Like I felt better, looser, stronger. All of a sudden, I just gained like all this, I don't know, like I would call it strength physically, but it was like I gained this freedom inside, and I was like, this feels natural to me. This feels like what I've wanted to do for so long, as far as like bringing out my best surfing. I was always way better surfer than I was a competitor. Like I loved the tour, and I'm so fortunate that I was able to do it, and I loved it when I did it for all the way for majority of it. And there was just a point in time in my life where I was like, God, I really got to do this other projects like Wi-Fi and apply pressure, and I got to just go free surf, because I don't feel like I'm doing myself justice on this tour anymore, and I don't feel like people can actually see the type of surfing that I can do on this tour anymore. Because if I didn't make the final or make a lot of heats, and you didn't see a lot of me, and I was in a heat. When you're in a heat, I just felt like I was always a little tighter in a heat for sure. So just getting off tour and being able to relax, and losing some, or dealing with some of the issues that need to be dealt with. Compartments is what we call them, issues or whatever you want to call them. But yeah, just getting through working out some of those and losing some of those, which felt great, and more freedom. And it was just like, whoa, I felt my physical body start to it was like picking up steam. It was interesting. It still does, actually. Like now I feel like I'm stronger and better and fitter than I've ever been, besides having, a little bone spur that I got to get taken off next week. But I feel like I'm going to come back from this and be better than Wi-Fi or apply pressure. It's just crazy. But I mean, I don't really know how to put it into words, but it has to do with just being more present in the moment. A lot of times I was living of, if I could just get here, or if I could just do that, then,
So that was creeping in, if it could just, if, maybe, but, if only, all that stuff was creeping into your surfing?
Yeah, totally.
So you got an issue that hasn't been dealt with in, say, real life, and then it creeps into the surfing life, and what, it slows you down, creates tension? Is that what it feels like?
Yeah, a little bit, because, if you have things that you experience in life, and maybe it was trauma, maybe it was a bad breakup, maybe it was being pissed about, I don't know, someone or something in your life, and you kind of just you distract yourself with your career or whatever, just move forward, don't deal with it. I feel like eventually all that stuff kind of comes back like a scorpion and hits you in the back of the head at some point, like you just don't get out of this whole thing free. Like, you got to deal with some shit. And I felt like, there was a time where, even during my career, which was really hard to stay on tour and be dealing with a lot of stuff that I was dealing with, that, no one knew at the time, but like personally, I was dealing with some stuff, and it was just hard to even qualify for the tour some days. But I knew, I was like, you know what, I got to deal with this now. Like, it's not, I have nowhere to go now. It's like surfaced, and it needs to be dealt with because it's dragging me down. And either I can deal with it and move forward and hopefully stay on tour and have a good career, or I can not deal with it and my career is probably going to be over real soon. So I was learning how to deal with some issues and stuff that were coming up, and kind of like on the fly as I was doing my career. No one knew that. My mentor knew that, but that was about it.
Who's your mentor?
Ron Rathbun.
Okay, that's the Keeley meditation.
Yeah.
And the
mentor teacher, I don't know. He's my friend. I just call him a friend, but
but are you saying that meditation helped you deal with your issues, and dealing with the issues helped you to get into the zone when you're surfing more?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I know for a fact my career would have been over maybe a decade ago. It was funny because, like, a lot of people ask me about the Mexico contest, the Barra event, with the search that they had down in that Point Break we got. And, that right at that time, I was going to retire that year. And that was like, 12, 13 years ago? I was ready to, like, call it quits. I was just bored of the tour, and, like, I was done. And, and then I found this love again. It's like I connected to this feeling that I had back when I was a kid, why I started surfing. Somewhere along the line in my career and in my life, and there was so much that happened in my 20s and stuff that I kind of lost that connection to that feeling. And then, doing the Keeley meditation, taking time to myself and learning more about myself, I got back in touch with that feeling again. And then I was like, and now I'm just this, like, stoked rom again. It's been really cool. It's like having a lot of like, imagine your head is like a closet, and over the years you accumulate stuff, and those are boxes. Or let's say you accumulate boxes, you put it in the closet. Those boxes are maybe a bad breakup, an ex-marriage, like a bad business deal, a few injuries in there. Everything has a box, and then the closet gets too full, and that's kind of how I explained it. Then I started cleaning the closet out, taking those boxes out, and having them disappear, and that's kind of the best way I can explain it.
It's a tricky thing to talk about, isn't it, meditation? Because
It's a really tricky thing because there's a lot of woo-woo goofy shit out there, man. It's really new age. Like, I was an anti-new age guy. Yeah, up until the day I even met Ron. I went to yoga. I did yoga strictly almost every day at Bikram's Yoga. It started in like 93, and yeah, sometimes I would do it 7 days a week. So I was really into yoga. I did not find anything spiritual about it. I felt like it was just a stretching class, And plus, I was very anti-New Age, kind of that whole genre of stuff. And so when I started going through some hard times in my late 20s, I was hanging a lot out with Brad Gerlach, and he was like, "Hey, man, you should go and meet my friend about meditation." And I had this idea in my head what meditation was, from being around yoga, and I was thinking, oh God, they're going to start chanting and they're going to be wearing red robes. I'm like, I'm not into that. I'm not in. And so I was like, nah, for like a year, I told him, no, I'm not going. And then finally I got to a point where I was like, okay, what I'm doing isn't working. Like, I'm miserable, I'm unhappy, and I have no idea why, and I don't even know how to get out of it. And so I was like, fine, I'm going to go meet him. And I walked in, I was like expecting this guy there with a bald head, with a red robe on. And no, he was just wearing Levi's and a surfer t-shirt. And I'm like, all right, okay, let's see what this is all about. And he sat me down, he ran me through the practice, did meditation for about 10 minutes. We chatted about some stuff. He explained the practice, and I was like, wow, that makes sense. Like, it just normally makes sense. I don't have to change who I am. I don't have to become a vegan. I don't have to, wear red robes or chant or anything like that. And I don't have to belong to anything. It's not a cult. It's not a religion. And you just got to look at yourself. This is like he's mapped the mind. He has a really good map of the mind on how to get deeper in the mind and not change like who you are, which I found really related to me. Because you know what? I was born and raised in Southern California, and this is where I grew up, and this is my culture. I was not born in India. I'm not Indian. That's not my culture. It's a beautiful culture, and they have lovely ways about them, and they have some great stuff. And but the reality is, I was born here, and this is my culture, and so I don't want to try to fit into another culture that I'm not from. I just want to be the best me, and that's pretty much how I sum it up. I just want to be the best me.
Okay, so the word meditation, like you said, has connotations of woo-woo and yogis and breathing, etc. How do you describe meditation?
Looking inside. Quiet, getting to a quiet place with no thought and having life come to you.
So more awareness of the present moment. Is that part of it?
Absolutely, for sure. That's part of it. I mean, we were talking earlier about awareness of your body.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have the body follows the mind. So I think it's a good idea to start there, and the body will come around to wherever your mind will take it. Your mind can take it down, or your mind could take it up, or you can just kind of cruise along in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, we can all see it. If someone's stressed, we see it in their physical body, right?
Yeah, but I mean, with all our technology and all the smart people in the world, we still don't have a test that'll read that. I mean, we have MRIs and X-rays and all kinds of electrodes that we can hook up. They still can't read that. But we all know it's there. We all see it. We all have it.
So some of that tension, that stress, which is usually catastrophizing about the future or reminiscing on something bad in the past, that's where most stress comes from. That was coming into your surfing and creating tension.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I could see it because I would I would say to my coach sometimes, like, God, I feel like I can't unlock, like, there's another 20% in there and I just can't unlock it. Like, I knew it was there. I'd get flashes sometimes, but I just couldn't access it. And I really, on a physical side of things, tried everything. You know, like everything I could think of. I'd do rolfing, I'd do yoga, I would work out in the gym until I was blacked out. Like, it wasn't, what I didn't realize is that it wasn't for a lack of trying. That's what I needed to turn down. What I wasn't doing was looking inside myself at, you know, looking at my life experience. Look how I was living, where my mind was at when I woke up in the morning, where my mind was at when I was out surfing or with dealing with life. So there was a lot for me to look at, and there still is. I mean, that's never going to stop, but I'm really happy. I'm in a much better place than I ever was.
So the closet analogy is when you begin starting to meditate, the big boxes come out first, but there's an infinite amount of small boxes and clutter.
Well, no, yeah. I wish the big boxes came out first. You just don't know what you're going to uncover about yourself. It's like an onion, but people will do anything not to look at themselves. They'll distract themselves all day until they conk out on their pillow. And then the minute their alarm goes off, they're straight up thinking about what they got to do that day or needs to get done, or like they can't take even 10 minutes to do that.
I'm interested to know what, like you can remember before you started meditating, and then about how you used to, like you just described, or they're up in their head, they're thinking about all this stuff. What's the difference now? Like, stuff in life happens that there's always there's always a good excuse to start thinking about all of that stuff. So what's different now? Why don't you?
I feel more at ease where I'm at. Like, I used to get FOMO really bad, like if I heard the waves were good and, I don't know, up north, and I wasn't up north and I wanted to be up north, it would like ruin the day I was having down here.
Okay, so that's a good example. So you're here, you have to
deal with life here. This is where I just can't get up there.
Yeah. But your mind is thinking about somewhere else.
Right.
So then that takes away that mental energy, thinking about, the waves are good in Santa Cruz, is taking away from your awareness of the present moment.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. Everything is energy. Thoughts are an energy. They've proven that, right? With the brain, electrodes, and all that kind of thing. And so you can really use and expend a ton amount of energy based on your thoughts. Now, if I'm down here in San Diego and I'm like, wow, I'm so bummed I'm not in Santa Cruz, God, and I'm driving around down in San Diego and I'm just in a bad mood, or, I feel like, like I'm bummed out that I'm not up there. It's like I've just missed like all these beautiful moments where I'm at in San Diego. Probably didn't even notice that, there's a beautiful sunset going on. I'm stressed because I'm not up there. Now I'm like, wow, I'm so stoked for those guys up there to get such good waves, and like completely detached from missing out. And I'm so much lighter I feel lighter. There's a lighter feeling when you're happy for those guys to get it, instead of thinking, oh, you're blowing it for not being up there. That's where I used to be. I'd be like, oh, you're blowing it for not being there and here and there. And like, I used to do that. I didn't realize at the time that I was driving myself crazy. Even though I was getting to all these places, I wasn't enjoying them. I should have been doing half of that many, and enjoying them more. That's where I'm at now. And that's why I think my surfing has become better, is because I feel like I enjoy it a lot more. I don't have FOMO of not being somewhere because I just can't get there or whatever. I'm really appreciative of where I am, wherever that may be. And I think the word appreciation has gotten a lot better and more entrenched in my life because of the meditation.
Yeah, interesting. So let me throw it back to you and let's see if I'm thinking about it correctly as to what you're saying. Is if there's a part of the brain that is aware of a bunch of stuff. There's kind of like, we all can imagine, it's kind of feels like it's behind our eyes. It's like the center of us kind of thing. That single point of whatever you want to call it, conscious awareness, there's a little bit of free will there as in, do we choose to be aware of all of the chatter going on in our brains, all the self-talk, all the thinking about, I should have done that, I should be doing this.
Those are compartments.
Yeah, okay, that's so that would be the upper compartment?
Yeah, that'd be in your brain is like what we call the lesser Keely.
Yeah. So in neurology we would call that the cortex.
Right.
Right. These are all your intelligence and your decision making and self-talk, language, all that stuff is in your cortex, which is sort of above the midbrain.
Right.
But then the center part of your brain can also be aware of what's going on underneath, down in neurology, what we call the brainstem and the midbrain, that's where all your body awareness, all your vision, your hearing, your balance, your proprioception, that's where all that stuff comes in. And that's your brain is always making decisions about what to do very quickly about all of that stuff. So that's kind of closer to the present moment. Is that? And we're trying to focus on that rather than all of the self-talk and stuff going on in the upper brain or the cortex.
Right.
We're
looking at it, I'm probably looking at it a little bit less biology, the ways that you are, like when you're trying cortex of the brain and stuff. I'm talking more about how where you're feeling stuff. Yeah. So you have the lesser Keely, which the brain is a receptor. It's not supposed to be a collector.
I like that. Yeah.
So we collect things in our. The analogy was the closet. Stuff gets stored up there and it piles up. And then there is. How do you describe when you haven't seen a really good friend in a long time? Someone that you really like and enjoy being around, and then you see him after not seeing him for a couple of years, and you get that feeling, and it wells up from down below. It comes up. So that's where I'm starting to live more from, and that feels better for me. That's what I mean in being in the present is like living more from your heart, because I don't think you'll ever regret a decision in life if you make it from your heart. Now, you can make decisions from your head. You can overanalyze stuff like, should I do this or not do this? Should I not, do this with this person or not do, And then there's those knowing feelings where you're like, nope. You get that feeling that didn't come from your head, but you know exactly what you want to do, and you don't think about it twice. You're just like, it's a knowing. And those two are different places. They come, and so I guess I don't know in biology terms what all this stuff, body parts are called, but I know when I get that feeling that wells up from, I've seen an old friend I haven't seen, or if there's a big decision in my life, like, are we going to move or not move? And then one day you wake up and you're driving in the car, not thinking about anything, and no, I know exactly what I want to do. I want to move. And I know it's the right decision for us. It's like you just absolutely know 100%. The day before, you were overanalyzing, you were doing pros and cons of living here and living there, and then for some reason it hits you like a brick. And you're like, now I know absolutely what I want to do.
So it feels like instinct, like
right. I mean, a lot of people call it gut feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, in life, as being a human being, we're going to have sadness. That's part of being a human. Things aren't going to go our way. That's part of being human. And we're going to have to make tough decisions sometimes. Sometimes that other people aren't going to like. Like say you have a really bad employee that isn't working out. but you like the person and you're like, oh man, like I hate firing this person. I like him as a person, but deep down, it's the right decision. So it doesn't end up being a regret. But sometimes when you make decisions from the brain, you can make a decision based off of their reaction. So you react right away to their reaction, and it's like a hasty decision to, you're fired, you're out of here. And then later on, you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. So that's what I mean. I don't think you ever will make a decision that you regret from your heart or your gut or wherever you want to call it down there, which we call the greater Keeley. And then there's we obviously need to use our brain every single day on this planet. And I feel like that works more efficiently as well when you clear out some of those boxes in your closet.
Interesting. So if we bring it back to surfing, and the way you're surfing now compared to how you were 10 years ago, are you surfing more from your heart, from instinct?
Like, it's funny because I surf less now, too. Like, I'm not practicing as much as I was on tour. Like, I think you get to a point, especially how long I've been surfing, where I don't need to go out on every 1 foot blown out day like I used to when I was a kid. Because when you're a kid, you need the practice. You need to get those motor skills tuned in and refined. But at this point, I cannot surf for a week and then go out and have a good session. Because the muscle memory's there and I can quickly connect to a feeling and do pretty big turns right away. Like, even if I didn't surf for a week or two. Because I know now my connection to that feeling is a lot quicker and a lot closer than it used to be. I used to have all these compartments where, like, I had to surf every single day no matter what. Even when I didn't want to surf, I would make myself surf. And those were the times that, I was actually holding myself back. But the old training programs I used to have was, no, you need to surf every day. Like, no matter what, you need to surf every day. And I wish I would have let go of some of those earlier in my career, but it's fine. Everything happens for a reason.
Okay. So meditation has helped you to be more relaxed in surfing from your heart and from your instincts in the water.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why your surfing is looking smoother and more relaxed.
Oh yeah. I mean, the training, the physical part is like 20% to me. Now.
Do you go deeper into flow states? Do you hit the zone more often? Does time slow down more now?
Yes.
Do you feel like you have more time on a wave?
Yes. Because I've had, you're not the only person recently in the last couple of years that said that I think you're surfing better now than you were on tour. And, everyone's like asking me, there's a lot of guys that, tons of guys, thousands that surf in their 40s. They're like, what are you doing? How are you training? And I tell them how I train in the gym, of course, and all that. And it's wonderful. It's great. I love it. But they don't realize it's just how much of your tension is coming from your compartments, and I've done all that before. I've gotten a massage every other day, and I'm thinking that was going to take the tension out. I've done all that, and I'm beyond that. I'm past that now. I learned really what was going on, and that's the secret, because I can get in that flow pretty quickly now, way quicker than I was in the prime of my competitive career, like night and day quicker. And I'm just flowing, and I'm not letting things get to me like they used to get to me. Sometimes you're out in the water and like, oh man, that guy just paddled around me, or that wave should have been mine. That can eat up, get on your head and eat you up inside. Like, I let that stuff go now. I'm freer for it. I'll take the third wave of the set. I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, it's become a lot. It's more enjoyable for me to be that way than to be like digging my heels in and like, let's fight for every wave, or hold your ground. Like, there's a time, where you got to hold your ground, but there's a lot of little stuff you could probably let go. And it's let go of a lot of that little things that can eat at you while you're out surfing in a session, you know? Like I easily get past those kinds of things now.
Okay. Well, that's great insight into how your surfing got better as you got older.
Yeah, it really wasn't. And the funny thing is I feel stronger physically. I feel like my awareness of my body is way better. And we were talking about DNS earlier because I've been getting into DNS and I've been doing it for a few months now. And when they told me how they trained over in Prague, because I guess to be a teacher, you got to go to their school in Prague and live there. But it was interesting. They go in the morning, they train for half an hour, then they go back to their hotel, and then they come in back at lunch and they train for half an hour. They go back to the hotel, and then they come back in the afternoon and train for half an hour. And that's how they're training. It's like do a certain exercise, get it down to you got it perfect. And I'm not like a DNS expert by any means, and I'm not speaking for them. But the way that I was explained to me is like you do it until you do it perfect, and then you stop. I love hearing how it just opened my mind to a whole nother, and it's nice to have the awareness to go into the gym and be able to like understand on a deeper level what they're talking about and what they want me to do. I feel like I pick up things faster. It's like I can actually feel my body way better now than I ever could when I was 28 years old. It's just overall awareness, right? Life, nature, your body, like awareness is a 360 degrees of sides. It's not just like awareness in physical or just awareness in the surfing. It's just overall awareness on everything.
I think people have got an idea of how it affects your surfing and the physical body, but I'm guessing that the greater awareness and the more detailed awareness of the present moment affects all parts of your life.
For sure. Absolutely. I mean, how many, there's the story that we all see in the news about maybe this athlete, he's lost it, and you're looking at him and going, wow, he looks physically fine. He looks like a big, strong, why? And you just don't know the backstory, what's going on at home or in his life, and you're like, a lot of times you're like, damn, I wish I had that physique. You know what I could do with that? You know what I mean? You're like, but no, it's just interesting. I think every human being obviously has a backstory, and that's the one that you need to get to make sure doesn't come back to haunt you.
Yeah, you think of like what is it that knocks Tiger Woods off number one position? It wasn't his physical body.
No.
It wasn't his technique. It was stuff that he was...
It was stuff that was going on that
exactly.
Finally it caught up to him, So, and he's kind of coming back now. So maybe he's beyond it. He's dealt with some of those things that caught up to him, where it's kind of like when you're sailing on a boat to me, and I would always use this analogy of like you're sailing into this beautiful sunset, but you didn't look behind you, and there's this huge storm bearing down on you. You just have no idea because you just never look back. So to me, it's like you've got to have 360 degrees of awareness. Can't always just be living and looking to the future.
Okay, I'm sure there's a lot of people who are interested to learn more about Keely. Where do they go?
Yeah, Ron's got a website, thekeely.org. I think he's got maybe 2 websites. One's for the doctors, more of a medical side of things, because they're teaching it down at UCSD Med School, and there's a group of doctors down there. I think there's about 12.
Yeah.
One's a cardiologist, and another's helps a lot with HIV. Anyway.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I'll put some links in the show notes for that anyway.
Yeah. So he's got a couple websites, and he has about 7 books or 8 books out.
Wow.
So yeah, and you can find those on Amazon and I'm sure other book sites,
been doing this podcast for 2.5 years now, and I've met a lot of pros and ex-pros and surf coaches and all these different techniques and ways to approach a wave. And now what I'm finding is like I've got all the information, but time doesn't slow down enough for me to practice all these different techniques I have.
Right.
So now I'm going, okay, if I want to take my surfing to the next level, I got to relax.
Yeah.
Time's got to slow down more, because every time I watch, it's hard to see it when you watch them on TV because it's just what we're used to. But when you see a really good surfer in real life, it's just, you just gobsmacked every time. They have all the time in the world, yet they're going as faster than you can imagine.
It's all just it's a connection, and if you're out surfing and you just got in a fight with your wife and that's all you could think about is your argument you had with your wife, you're probably surfing at about 30% or something, like everything is thrown off. You're just off. And so you're not living in the moment.
So meditation, in that situation, would firstly help you to focus on the wave and ignore that outside of surf issue. But more importantly, you would have avoided that issue happening in the first place because you would have had more awareness during whatever
argument
fight you had.
Right, exactly. That's why, everybody makes a big deal about hindsight. Hindsight means that you've probably already suffered. Foresight is so much better. That means you avoided the problem before you got into it. But humans have they learn through suffering. They experience something, it worked out horribly, and then hopefully, after the first time they learned from it, hopefully, they had hindsight. But if you have foresight, you don't encounter that.
Is it foresight? Now I'm confused. Because foresight makes me think of you trying to predict something. Now sight.
No, it's not a prediction. It's more like you trust your gut feeling, let's say. You're like, you know what? My gut feeling says that I shouldn't get into business with this guy.
Even though the numbers add up.
Yeah, exactly. So that brain's telling you, the numbers are there and he's rich and he's got the backing and, he's got these connections. But your gut's feeling saying something's shady and I don't like it. But you don't trust the gut feeling and you go ahead and do it. And it's great for several years. You're making all this money and everything's good. And all of a sudden, you guys have a bad breakup and it goes into a complete nightmare because you didn't have the foresight to see, or you didn't trust your foresight. And so, and then I would say when you were talking about being in the water and having a fight with your spouse or, and you're still thinking about it in the water, it's not like you're not, being present is like, look, that happened for whatever reason, but now I'm in the water surfing. Like this is where I'm at. I can't be anywhere else. Why can't I enjoy it? Because you can't detach from the argument you just had. And a detachment and separation are totally opposite. I would never recommend being separated from life. You never want to be separated. But detachment is just being where you are. Like, yeah, that argument happened. It was a bummer. But now I'm out surfing. Why not enjoy it? What does it mean I can enjoy it? Should I feel bad wherever I go now because of that argument? Or should I you can still enjoy where you are. And I'm sure you'll get back to that argument later or, resolve it later or you'll talk it out or work it out. But for that moment, you're out surfing.
It's a good attitude. Yeah, makes sense.
And then it's always amazing. You hear some people they almost get mad that you had fun. Like, oh my God, I can't believe you're just out enjoying yourself surfing. Like, well, yeah, that's why we surf. And I go out there. Otherwise, why even paddle out? I have like my limbs, I have my health. Why wouldn't I enjoy it? Because I just went with a foundation last weekend called One More Wave. Was started by some Navy SEALs, and they take vets surfing that have lost their legs or maybe had some post-traumatic stress, and guys that are struggling a little bit. And we took them out surfing at a wave pool and got him into these amazing waves, and it was an awesome experience. The guy that I was helping, he had no legs, and we were riding we probably caught like 30 waves together, and he'd never caught a wave in his life. He's from Georgia, and it was awesome. It made me think, like, you know what, while I have this body and I'm trying to keep it in one piece as good as I can, I'm going to go out and enjoy every time I can. Go out and enjoy something in nature, I'm going to do it, or not every time, but when I am out there, I'm really going to enjoy it, because, man, you can't take it for granted. It doesn't mean overdo it, but just, take your time. Obviously the body needs rest. It's super important. In fact, a new study just came out, I believe, that a friend of mine was telling me about how important sleep is. Like the guy, I'll get the study for you, but he is a scientist.
Is that the guy Joe Rogan just interviewed?
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
Yeah.
He was telling me about that.
Yeah, I heard that one, yeah.
How important sleep was. So I was the guy that would go to yoga in the morning for 2 hours, and then I'd work out in the gym for 2 hours, and I would surf for 2 hours. And I would do that for years, But I learned I was just burning myself out, and I think now that's why my body feels stronger than it's ever felt, is because I rest more. But when I'm in the gym and I'm doing it, I feel more focused than I ever was. And I don't feel like I need to do as much. It's more like I just need to get to the point of, like, you'll do that one rep where you're like, well, I just did it perfect. And I'm like focused on connecting to that feeling. I'm not focused on doing 20 more.
Yeah, I like that. Brings it back to that feeling of connection through the power turn.
Right.
It's like the feeling of the perfect rep, or holding that position perfectly for.
And it makes it, and when you are in that feeling sense, everything's easier. Like in sports, they always talk about the game slows down for that guy, Tom Brady or whoever. And then you see another quarterback, and you're like, God, he's got even a better arm than Tom Brady. But he's so antsy back there. He's, the game is speeding up on him. Even though it's going the same exact pace as it was for Tom Brady, no one's running any slower for him. But for this guy, it's like they're running at 200 miles an hour.
When's your next surf trip?
I really am focused on getting to South Africa this summer. I missed it. I haven't been there in a couple years, and that's probably hopefully be in July, late July, yeah. So that's kind of like what I'm shooting for. Then I have a trip to the Maldives with Matt Griggs. We got these really nice boats. It's a 5-star boat trip where we teach the Keeley meditation and coach them on surfing and surfing technique. We have someone there that films them, and we'll do the meditation with them once a day. And you're going to be eating awesome food and an incredible boat and traveling around. So looking forward to that too.
Yeah, you guys did that trip last year?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
it was incredible.
Yeah,
I'd say we even probably got, as far as waves go, pretty skunked, but we still had like an amazing time. And we were surfing, perfect little head-high reef breaks and the most beautiful watercolor you've ever seen. So I don't even know how you get skunked there, but I've been there before where I've gotten really good waves. So, I feel like this next trip might be even better for waves.
Yeah, okay.
For waves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are people going to get out of this trip, apart from the obvious, like improving the surfing, being inspired by you and educated by Matt and you, and like inspiration and education for surfing? But there's more to it than that?
Yeah, I think with, learning about the Keeley, like a few of the guys that came last year had never even done the meditation before, so they were just new to it. And they all walked away just going, wow, this is like, we didn't know meditation could be like this, They kind of have, it's easy to stereotype it like I did when before I started. And they just were kind of blown away about how much lighter and better, and they were feeling stuff that they'd never felt before by just closing their eyes for 10 minutes and trying to have no thought run through your mind. And a lot of the guys were tripped out on how hard it was. Like they didn't, there was always a thought running through their head when they closed their eyes. And I think pretty much every human you can say they know what that feels like, you know?
Yeah. I've always, because be honest, I haven't done much Keeley meditation. I've read the book and I've tried, but I've always I've never had no thought. Is that even?
Yeah, I think that's what Buddha called big sky mind, or what he meant by that.
It almost seems impossible to have no thought.
Oh, it's not impossible. I can tell you.
Okay, so maybe I'm confusing some of my thoughts with feelings. Because there's never going to be nothing, is there?
Yeah, there's
always going to be something.
No, there's going to be nothing. I speak from experience.
There's nothing?
Where I've had I didn't even feel my body. It's like, because in our meditation, you don't focus on breathing at all. You don't focus on anything physical. You just sit down in a comfortable, in a comfortable position, whether it's a chair or up against a wall, any way you want, just comfortable, and preferably with your, spine straight, not like hunched over, but whatever works for you. And then, you close your eyes and you feel your energy at the top of your head, and you kind of, the way I feel it, it's like a horizontal plane that kind of comes down through both hemispheres of my brain, and kind of stop at my middle self, which is right at eye level, and stop there for a little bit. I don't time it or anything. It's more of just a feeling. And then after being there for a few minutes, I just drop down into my greater Keeley, and I try to I feel like when you drop down, it's like almost like you feel like a point, or like a space by your heart or in your chest. I do anyway. And I just kind of stay there for as long as I can. Some days are better than others. I mean, I still have bad meditations where I've got all this chatter in my head about, I don't know what I got to do today, or I'm leaving on a trip, or, you have it's like a graph, and there's hills and valleys, but the line's always going up. So even if you have a bad practice, it's still, you're moving in the right direction. You sat down for 10 minutes with yourself and your own thoughts. I mean, who's that good for? Only you. You know what I mean? And it's free. It's not like you're paying for this. So it's kind of like, what a lot of people kind of, they don't like to be with their own thoughts, That's why they stay distracted as much as they can. And they're doers that just can't stop doing.
So we're talking about being rather than doing.
Right. Because I've said this a few times, but what I've learned from Ron is that there's what you do in life, and then there's who you are in life. And he would always ask me, what's more important? And I was like, yep, okay, I get it, Thanks for bringing me back with just one little question.
Yeah, I like that.
And then it's like you hear your own, like you have all the answers, I believe, that you're looking for in life. I mean, he's never once told me what to do. He's asked me some really good questions before, and I answered him in my own words, and I was like, oh, I just answered my own question. And he was like, yeah, you weren't asking yourself the right question. And it comes like that. It's come like that to me hundreds of times, where I was, what should I do? And then I just sit back, I do my practice for a couple of days, and then all of a sudden it just hit me. I was like, there it is. I let it come to me. I contemplated it, and then the right decision just, I don't know. I mean, we've talked about earlier in the interview, like There's some times in life where there's a decision to be made, and you just know, no matter what, this is the right decision for me, or this is for our family. Like, it's undeniable to you. Like, just a knowing. I don't know how to explain that.
Well, I think what you're saying is sometimes we ignore that and we listen to the excuses and the backstory and the what ifs and buts rather than trusting that.
Yeah. I mean, let's hypothetically say that there was two different ways you could have gone in business, but there's two guys offering you a business deal, right? And one guy, let's say, and they both ended up being successful. One guy goes on and he makes $100 million, and you could have been a part of that. But he's a kind of a jerk and someone that you didn't really want to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And then you trust your gut and you go with the guy, and he goes on and his business goes to 50 million, half as much. But you've been happy the whole time. You like working with him. Like, it's like, where do you put your value? You know? A lot of people they go for the carrot, and then they get there and there's like, it didn't mean much to them. They're alone. There's no one to share it with, because to get to that point, they had to be a jerk to do it. I'd rather just be like, if not the best, but enjoy it the most. And then it's funny, because then my best comes out. Yeah. When I'm enjoying life the most is when my best comes out.
What's next then? Are you working on more edits?
Yeah. That's going to be my focus now. Is once my knee's better in about a month, I'm going to start surfing again a lot, and I'm so excited to get back out there, because I feel like in the last several months I've been surfing in some pain, so I haven't really been surfing as like I wanted to, So I'm really excited to get back out and put another edit out and try some. I've got a couple ideas. I don't want to give them away yet, but there's two ideas I have, and I'm actually working on maybe a fictional movie that I can't really say the title of right now, but
cool. Yeah,
I'm excited for that as well.
All right.
Yeah, from a pretty big time director. We also just came out with the Mike and Jeff Zimbalist, who are documentary movie makers. They've done a lot of the 30 for 30 documentaries on ESPN, and they just came out with a movie on our momentum generation. So it's a documentary.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I've seen all the photos of you guys getting together.
Yeah. So we went back to New York a couple weeks ago and saw it at Tribeca, and so that's going to be hitting the streets probably this summer, and it's good. It's really good. I think you'll enjoy it. I think people are really going to like it.
Yeah. I look forward to it.
Yeah, man.
Cool. Maybe one more question.
Sure.
If you were limited to surfing here in California, and you were limited to only 3 surfboards, what 3 surfboards would they be?
Well, I would have to go with like a 6.0 squash high performance board for sure. One that I could ride and surf that's a few feet of, overhead. Living in California, we have to deal with our small surf at times, so I definitely have like a small wave board. One of my new Eagle models, it would be 5'10", 19 and a quarter, built for small waves.
Eagle model?
Yeah, it's the Eagle model. Chris Borst is my shaper.
Okay.
Borst. And then I would need, I'd probably need one of my Skip Fry flyers, like my 12.3 Skip Fry for when the waves are flat. Yeah, it's really fun to ride, and it's just, I don't know, it's just a cool board to be out, and it's a different feeling for surfing, for me, and yeah, I think I'd probably take that one.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. And there's still a few spots left for your Maldives trip.
Yeah, there's still 4 or 5 spots.
How do people find out a little bit more about that?
Yeah, Matt Griggs' website is probably the best.
Yep. All right. We'll put links to that in the show notes.
Yeah, please do. He's he's doing. I was just with him down in Australia, and man, it's amazing. Like being down there and seeing how far and how much it's grown. It's just crazy. I love hanging out with Matt and Kate and the kids. I wish they lived down the street. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Taylor, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, Mike. Thank you, man.
Cool.
Yeah. You.